10 Irish places you should never visit after dark. Ireland is a land of beauty, green hills, quiet roads, ancient stone. But when the sun goes down, some places change. The air thickens, the silence deepens, and the stories begin. For centuries, people across this island have known where not to go once the light fades. Roads where the dead walk, forests that whisper, bridges that trap. These aren't just ghost stories, they're warnings passed down from generation to generation. So if you're thinking of exploring Ireland after dark, remember this: some places don't want you there, and some might not let you leave. These are 10 Irish places you should never visit after dark. The Devil's Punch Bowl, County Kerry. High in the shadow of Manderton Mountain lies a dark, still lake known as the Devil's Punch Bowl. By day, it's a peaceful place. Hikers stop to admire the water's eerie calm. The wind carries only the sound of distant sheep and rustling heather. But as the sun begins to set, locals warn visitors to be far away from its shores, because once darkness falls, the lake stirs. The name alone should be enough to keep people away. According to legend, the lake was formed when the devil himself struck the mountain with his fist in a rage, carving out the hollow basin with fire and fury. Other versions say the punch bowl is bottomless, a portal to another world. But most chilling of all is what happens there at night. Stories go back centuries. In the 1600s, shepherds reported strange boiling sounds from the lake after dark, even during freezing weather. One man claimed to see steam rise from the surface, though no heat was felt. He left the mountain and never returned. In 1847, during the Great Famine, a woman fleeing hunger took shelter near the lake with her sick child. She built a small fire, wrapped her baby in cloth, and prayed through the night. In the morning she was gone. Her child was found floating in the centre of the lake, untouched by animals or storm. The woman's footprints circled the water several times, then simply stopped. To this day, hikers speak of seeing mist form over the punch bowl at twilight, even in dry weather. Some have heard whispering voices that seem to come from the centre of the water. Others have described a deep, low hum like something shifting below the surface. But it's not just the atmosphere, it's what the lake shows you. In 1992, a man named Liam O'Shea was hiking alone when he decided to camp near the water. Just after midnight, he woke to find the air around him still, unnaturally still. The wind had died, no insects, no birds, only the sound of trickling water, despite the lake being motionless. Then, from across the surface, he saw a flicker of light. At first, he thought it was another camper, but as he watched, the light began to take shape. A tall figure, cloaked in shadow, standing on the lake itself. Not floating, not glowing, just watching. He packed up and left before sunrise. He's never spoken of what he saw in detail, only that the figure wasn't alone. And then there's the boiling. Multiple witnesses over the years, some of them experienced climbers, have reported seeing the centre of the lake ripple violently just after sunset. No animals, no rocks, no storm, just a sudden, violent churning of water, as though something beneath is waking. Scientists have dismissed it as trapped gas or sudden temperature shifts, but the people of Killarney, just a short drive below, know better. They say the punch bowl is not just a lake, it's a warning. Visitors still come, drawn by beauty and legend, but few stay beyond twilight. Those who do sometimes return shaken, silent, unwilling to share what they've experienced. Because there's something about the Devil's Punch Bowl that watches, that waits, and after dark, it doesn't like to be ignored. Ards Forest Park, County Donegal. On the northwestern edge of Donegal, where forest meets sea, lies Ards Forest Park, a vast stretch of woodland and trails that seems untouched by time. By day, it's peaceful. Pine trees sway in the breeze, the sea glints through the branches, and families wander through sun-dappled paths. But once the light fades, the trees begin to change. Locals know not to linger after dark. There's an old saying in nearby Creeslow: if you hear someone behind you in Ards after sundown, don't turn around. The stories go back more than a century. In the 1890s, a woodcutter went missing during a long summer dusk. His cart was found by the water's edge, axe still resting inside. His lantern was lit, but his footprints circled a single tree 7 times and then vanished. No body was ever found. In the decades since, the park has seen its share of strange disappearances. A scout group in the 1950s claimed one boy wandered off for 10 minutes and came back barefoot and silent, refusing to speak for days. A jogger in the 1980s was found sitting in the middle of the trail at dawn, staring into the trees, hands covered in pine needles and blood. No wounds, no explanation. Most chilling of all are the lights. Soft white glows that hover between the trees, sometimes drifting low to the ground, sometimes flickering higher up, like lanterns held in invisible hands. People say they pulse slowly, as if breathing. Some believe they're spirits, others say they're something older, watchers tied to the forest itself. In 2003, a man named Declan Byrne was hiking the trails alone during a warm June evening. He didn't return. Search teams combed the woods for days. On the 4th night, they found his phone near a clearing. The only video on it lasted 6 seconds. It showed a path lit by moonlight and a figure standing perfectly still among the trees. It had no face. To this day, the trail where the phone was found is called Byrne's Walk, and few locals will walk it after dusk. The forest plays tricks. Hikers report hearing footsteps behind them, steady, matching their own. When they stop, so do the footsteps. Some say they've heard children laughing deep in the woods, even when the car park is empty. Others describe a low, humming noise that seems to vibrate in their chest. Not quite sound, but not silence either. In recent years, paranormal investigators have tried to capture the phenomena. One group camped near an old stone ruin deep in the woods. Just after midnight, their camera picked up what looked like a face in the trees. Close, pale, unmoving. The footage cut out 5 seconds later. When they retrieved the camera, it was still warm. The forest is beautiful, but the stillness at night is different. Too still, as if the trees are waiting. The entrance sign at Ards Forest welcomes visitors from morning till evening, but ask anyone from Creeslow and they'll tell you the truth. After dark, you don't find the forest finds you. The Kuras, County Kildare. Just outside Newbridge lies a stretch of land known simply as the Kuras, open bogland and low hills covered in wild grass and gorse. By day, it seems empty, even peaceful, but once the sun begins to set, the landscape shifts. The ground feels softer, the wind gets quiet, and the stories begin. Because the Kuras are not just empty fields, they're haunted by something that moves without sound. Old tales say that this land was once a battlefield, though no records survive of who fought or what was lost. What does remain is the feeling, oppressive, ancient, and thick as the peat underfoot. In 1911, a man named Sion Carney went walking across the Kuras to visit a friend's farm. He left just after sunset and never arrived. His body was found days later, curled in a ditch, his eyes wide open and his hands clawed into the mud. There were no wounds, no sign of struggle. The coroner called it fright. The locals knew better. By the 1940s, stories began to grow of ghost horses, large black shapes galloping across the open ground, soundless except for the thud of hooves on soft earth. People would hear them at night, charging past windows, rattling fences, but find no tracks the next morning. In 1972, a couple parked near the edge of the Kuras to watch the stars. They heard what they thought was thunder rolling over the fields, but the sky was clear. Then the ground began to tremble. They looked up and saw a riderless horse charging straight toward them from across the bog. They sped away, but not before the driver caught a glimpse of something behind the horse. A figure running on all fours, pale and long-limbed, its head turned sideways, eyes black as tar. They never returned to Kildare. Others have spoken of the whispers. Soft, breathless voices that start low and rise with the wind. They say it sounds like someone asking for help until the tone changes, until it starts laughing. One man, a farmer, said he followed the sound one night thinking a child was lost. He wandered into the bog. The next morning, he was found sitting in his field, clothes soaked, unable to remember his own name. He never spoke again. Today, the Kuras remain largely empty. Occasionally, you'll see someone walking their dog during daylight, but never at night, and never alone. Even GPS struggles here. Devices fail, signals drop, and phone batteries drain without explanation. One group of tourists tried to photograph the landscape after sunset. Their cameras worked fine until the moment they stepped off the road. Then everything went black. They walked back to their car in silence. They said they felt followed the whole way. The people of Newbridge and Kildare town don't talk much about the Kuras, but they all know the same rule. If you hear hooves after dark, don't run. Don't look, just lie down. Because whatever gallops through the night doesn't like to be seen, and if you see its face, it never forgets yours. The Fairy Ring, County Roscommon. Just outside the quiet village of Tulsk, in the heart of County Roscommon, lies a grassy field with a single, perfect circle of raised earth. No fence surrounds it, no signs warn you away, but everyone in the village knows the same thing. You do not step into that ring, not ever, and especially not after dark. It looks harmless, just a low, earthen mound overgrown with wildflowers and moss, the kind of place you might walk past without a second thought. But the locals know it's older than the village, older than the roads, older even than the ruins of Rathcrogan nearby. They say it's a fairy ring, and not the storybook kind. In 1864, a boy named Liam Flanagan chased a sheep into the ring during dusk. He was gone less than 5 minutes, but when he came out, he was different. He didn't speak, he didn't blink, he just stood there staring at the setting sun. His mother tried to carry him home, but he screamed so loudly that windows shattered in 3 nearby cottages. He never recovered. Others weren't so lucky. In the 1920s, 2 British soldiers stationed in the area laughed off local warnings and walked into the ring after a night at the pub. One of them disappeared. The other was found the next morning at the edge of the field, muttering in broken Irish, though he'd never spoken the language before. His boots were filled with seawater, though the nearest coast was 50 miles away. He was discharged and sent back to England. The field has a strange stillness to it. Birds don't fly over it. Livestock won't graze near it, and dogs refuse to step inside. If you throw a stick into the ring, no animal will fetch it. Then there's the matter of the music. People say that on Midsummer's Eve, just after midnight, a faint melody can be heard coming from the ring. High-pitched and fast, like fiddles played by invisible hands. Those who've heard it say it stirs something in the back of your mind. Joy, dread, or a memory that isn't yours. One man claimed to record it in the 1990s, but when he played the tape back, all he heard was wind, until the very end, when a voice whispered his name. He burned the tape the next day. In recent years, tourists have stumbled across the site thanks to online folklore blogs. Some have posted videos claiming to walk around the ring without issue, but there's a pattern to those clips. Shaky camera work, muffled audio, and unexplained cuts in the footage, and none of them film inside the circle. Locals still won't go near it. They say that if you enter the ring after dark, you might come back out, but not all of you will return. Sometimes it's your memory that goes. Sometimes your reflection stops matching your movements. And sometimes when you're alone, you'll hear footsteps just behind you, even when no one's there. So if you visit Tulsk, admire the view, take a photo, ask the locals about the stories, but don't cross into the ring, because the fairies don't want your attention. They want your silence. The Blackwater Woods, County Wexford. The woods near Blackwater village in County Wexford look like something from a postcard. Tall trees, winding trails, and birdsong echoing through the canopy. Families walk the paths on summer afternoons, and kids build dens from fallen branches. But when dusk falls, the woods turn cold, even in July, and the people who know the stories clear out long before the sun disappears. They call it the Blackwater stillness, a moment just after sunset when the trees stop moving. No breeze, no birds, no rustle of leaves, just silence. And in that silence, if you're still, you'll feel it too, the sense that you're not alone. The first known account dates back to 1906, when a poacher from Wexford town vanished during a moonlit hunt. His dog returned alone, fur soaked and eyes wide. The man's body was never recovered, but his satchel and broken rifle were found at the base of a tree, still warm, hours later. In 1952, 3 teenagers entered the woods on a dare. They wanted to spend the night near an old fire pit at the centre of the forest. Only 2 came back. The third, a boy named Brendan Kelly, was found the next day, standing against a tree, eyes closed, unmoving. When the Gardaí arrived, he was still breathing, but he never opened his eyes again. They say he whispers sometimes. Just one word: closer. Walkers who've strayed into the woods at night report strange things. Trees that appear to move when you're not looking, flickers of white between the trunks, too tall for animals, too thin for people, the sound of breathing behind you, even when you're alone. One woman described feeling something brush her hand as she reached for a branch. She turned, expecting her child. There was no one there. In 1987, a man hiking with a friend lost track of time. They tried to follow their path out using a compass, but it spun wildly in every direction. Eventually, they found the trail again, but when they checked their watches, they'd lost over 2 hours. Neither could remember what happened. One of them later developed a tremor in his left hand that never went away. And then there's the figure in the trees. Multiple reports describe seeing a pale shape high in the branches, not sitting, not perched, hanging, motionless, watching, eyes completely black. No one's ever captured a clear photo, but a few blurry images circulate online. Grainy, washed out, all showing the same shape, something that doesn't belong among the leaves. Locals say it's a warning, not the thing itself, but the thing that follows. Today there's a wooden sign at the main entrance to the woods. It says, "Welcome to Blackwater Trails." Below it, scratched into the frame, are 4 words. Don't be the last. Most visitors don't notice, but the ones who do tend to turn around. Because the woods near Blackwater are beautiful, yes, but beauty means nothing after dark. Not when the wind stops, not when the trees begin to lean in, and not when the silence begins to breathe. Baliboly Forest, County Antrim. Tucked deep in the hills of County Antrim lies Baliboly Forest, a quiet stretch of trees and trails that few tourists know, and even fewer locals care to visit after sundown. On maps, it's just another forest, but in whispered stories and old family warnings, Baliboly is known as something else. A place the forest doesn't let you leave the same. During the day, it's still and strangely quiet. Birdsong is rare. The wind sounds wrong, like it's passing through something hollow, and the deeper you go into the trees, the more the path seems to shift, never quite where you left it. The first written report of something strange came from a land surveyor in 1852. He was mapping the area when he saw a circle of hooded figures in the woods. He assumed they were performing some old ritual, but when he tried to approach, the entire group vanished. No trace, just flattened grass where they'd stood and a pile of stones arranged in a perfect spiral. He left that day and never returned. Decades later, farmers began finding sheep dead on the edge of the forest, drained of blood, untouched by predators. There were no signs of a struggle, just the same strange pattern of stones beside each one. Then came the disappearances. In the 1970s, 2 hikers went missing on the Northern Trail. Search teams combed the forest for 3 days. Nothing. On the 4th day, one of them walked into a nearby village barefoot, covered in cuts and too shocked to speak. He had no memory of where he'd been, only that something was humming in the trees. The other hiker was never found. Baliboly became a favourite for urban explorers in the early 2000s. Videos appeared online of people wandering its trails, chasing thrills. But those who stayed too long told similar stories. Malfunctioning equipment, phones losing battery in minutes, and the unsettling feeling of being watched, not from behind, but from above. They describe shadows that pass across the trail when there are no clouds, a coldness that drops suddenly, like walking into a different season. One man claimed he saw a face in the trees, not behind the trees, but in them, peering through the bark like the forest itself was alive. The most chilling reports speak of the silent crowd. People walking through Baliboly at night sometimes come across figures, tall, thin, and hooded, standing in complete silence just off the path. They don't move, they don't speak, but if you look away, even for a moment, they get closer. In 2011, a camper claimed he woke to find one standing outside his tent, facing away. He watched for nearly half an hour before it slowly turned its head, not its body, just the head, all the way around. He left the tent, his gear, and never camped again. Today, Baliboly Forest remains open to the public. There are no warning signs, no locked gates. But ask anyone in the nearby town of Larne and they'll tell you, don't go in alone, don't go off the path, and whatever you do, don't speak to the ones in hoods. Because if you do, they might follow you out, but they won't leave. Leap River Crossing, County Offaly. In a quiet stretch of County Offaly, there's a narrow moss-covered bridge where the Leap River runs slow and dark beneath the trees. It's not marked on most maps, just a curve in a forgotten road, used mostly by locals. But there's one rule that everyone in the area knows. Don't stop on the bridge after dark, especially if you see the woman in white. The stories date back to the early 1900s when a horse and cart was found overturned near the crossing. The driver was missing. His horse had bolted into the river, reins trailing, foam on its mouth. An old man from the village said he'd seen a pale woman standing on the bridge that night, arms outstretched as if asking to be lifted. He swore she had no feet. Over the years, similar tales repeated. A car stalls on the bridge, a driver sees a figure in the rearview mirror, a hand touches the window when no one is outside. In 1968, a schoolteacher named Maura Flynn was driving home late from a training day. As she approached the bridge, the engine cut out. Her lights died. The radio crackled, then went silent. She sat in the dark, unsure what to do. Then she saw her, a woman in a soaked white dress, standing in the middle of the road, her head down, long black hair clinging to her face. Maura locked the doors, too frightened to move. The figure slowly turned, revealing hollow eyes and a smile that stretched too wide. The next thing Maura remembered, it was dawn. Her car started on the first turn of the quay, but she drove with the lights on for the rest of her life, day or night. In 1994, two teenage boys dared each other to walk the bridge at midnight. One made it across, the other didn't. He ran off halfway through, claiming he heard someone whisper his name beneath the bridge. His friend didn't hear a thing. When he got home, his skin was ice cold. He spent the next 2 nights sitting on the edge of his bed, saying only one phrase, "She's under the water." Some say the woman is the spirit of a bride who drowned on her wedding day. Others believe she was thrown from the bridge during a land feud in the 1800s. Whatever the origin, the haunting has one consistent feature. She only appears to people who are alone, and she only comes when the car stops. There's no reception at the Leap River crossing, no lights, no houses for a mile in either direction. If your car dies on the bridge, locals say to sit still. Don't look in the mirror. Don't respond to any voice outside the vehicle, no matter how familiar it sounds. And never, ever open the door. The bridge itself is quiet during the day. But after dark, drivers report seeing water on the road, even when it hasn't rained. Some say the engine cuts out just long enough to see her appear at the far end, smiling, waiting to be let in. The old Abbey of Fore, County Westmeath. Tucked into a quiet valley surrounded by hills and farmland lie the ruins of Fore Abbey, a 7th century monastic site once home to over 300 monks. By daylight, it's peaceful. Stone walls crumbled by time, wildflowers pushing through cracks in the path, and a stream that flows gently through the grounds. But after dark, Fore is anything but peaceful, because one of the 7 ancient curses laid on this place still lingers, and it doesn't sleep. The abbey was founded by Saint Faetchin, a holy man said to have performed miracles on the site. But legend says he also placed 7 curses on the area, each one a protection, a warning, and a punishment rolled into one. One of the most feared, the water that boils without fire. Locals believe it refers to a hidden spring near the ruins, where the water bubbles up warm even in winter, and where, at night, the surface is said to shimmer like oil. On certain evenings, steam rises even when the air is cold. No one drinks from it, not anymore. Stories of strange happenings have haunted for generations. In the 1800s, a priest passing through the ruins at dusk claimed he saw monks walking the old cloisters, heads bowed, robes dragging, eyes glowing faintly red. He said they didn't walk so much as float just above the ground. The priest never returned. In 1951, a group of children dared each other to enter the Abbey at night. One boy, Patrick Byrne, disappeared inside for less than 5 minutes. When he came out, his hair had turned completely white. He never spoke about what he saw, only that the walls were whispering. In recent years, paranormal investigators have tried to document the site. One team set up motion detectors and thermal cameras inside the central archway. At exactly 3:11 a.m, all their devices shut down at once. When they recovered the footage, it showed a figure standing in the arch for 4 full seconds, tall, shrouded, and staring directly at the lens. No one on the team saw it at the time. Visitors after dark often report sudden headaches, nosebleeds, or the overwhelming feeling that they're being watched. Some say the Abbey hums at night, not a sound you hear, but something you feel in your chest, like the building itself is alive. Then there are the monks. Locals call them the Watchers, figures that appear just after midnight, always on the edges of the ruins. Some claim to see only one, others say 3 or 4 appear, walking in slow patterns along the outer walls. One man who got too close described seeing their faces as blank stone, like statues come to life. There are no overnight stays near Fore Abbey, no lights, no gates, no security cameras, just stone, sky, and whatever walks between them. Ask the older residents of Castle Pollard and they'll all tell you the same thing. Fore is sacred and cursed. Don't mix the two. So if you visit the Abbey during daylight, take your photos, say your prayers, and leave before the sun dips too low. Because once the shadows stretch across the walls, the 7th curse stirs again, and the Abbey begins to watch back. Shane's Castle ruins, County Antrim. On the edge of Lough Neagh, half hidden by trees and fog, lie the ruins of Shane's Castle, a crumbled fortress once grand, now hollowed by time and fire. Tourists visit in daylight, walking its overgrown paths and photographing ivy-draped walls. But ask anyone from nearby Randallstown and they'll give the same warning. Don't go near it after dark, because the castle is cursed and it has a guardian. The O'Neill family, one of Ireland's most powerful dynasties, once ruled from Shane's Castle. According to legend, a banshee was bound to the family centuries ago, her scream foretelling death or ruin. Most thought it was only a story, until the night the castle burned. In 1816, a fire tore through Shane's Castle during a family gathering. Guests fled as flames consumed the great hall. Some said it was an accident, others that it was punishment. Hours before the fire began, several witnesses claimed they heard a wailing cry echoing across the lough. That night, the family patriarch died of a heart attack as the flames reached his study. The castle was never rebuilt, and ever since, something has been seen among the ruins. In the decades that followed, fishermen on Lough Neagh reported strange lights flickering near the shoreline at night, blue and white, like lanterns held low. One even claimed to see a woman in grey walking across the broken courtyard, vanishing through a stone wall. In 1973, a group of teenagers dared each other to spend the night inside the ruins. They brought sleeping bags, candles, and a radio. By morning, one of them was missing. The others were found huddled in a corner, shivering and unable to speak. When they were questioned later, all they said was, "She screamed," and then he was gone. The missing boy was never found. Local folklore says the banshee is still bound to the land, not just to the family, but to the place itself, She appears before tragedies, her cry brings sickness, and sometimes she doesn't warn at all, she chooses. More recently, a security guard hired to patrol the grounds at night quit after 2 shifts. He refused to say why, but in the guard hut, his logbook ended with one sentence, scrawled in shaky handwriting. "There's someone in the hall, but it isn't human." Visitors have reported their phones dying as they enter the ruins. Photographs taken at night show faint shapes in the windows, figures where there are no floors. And more than one person has described hearing chanting in the distance, even when the ruins are completely empty. The ruins are open to the public by day. But at night, the castle returns to silence. Not peace, just silence. Ask around town and you'll hear the same few rules repeated. Don't walk past the main archway after midnight. Don't follow any sound that calls your name. And if you hear crying, run. Because if the banshee still haunts Shane's castle, she isn't just warning of death anymore. She's waiting for someone to join her. The Windy Gap, County Mayo. Nestled high in the hills between Castlebar and Newport lies a narrow mountain pass known as the Windy Gap. The name sounds harmless, just another stretch of twisting road, carved between ancient stone and bog. But for generations travellers have whispered the same warning. If you drive the gap after dark, don't stop, no matter what you see, no matter who calls your name. The road itself is winding and remote, with cliffs rising on one side and steep drops on the other. There are no streetlights, no houses, just wind, rock and silence. And at night the silence changes. The first reported incident dates back to 1922, when a delivery cart overturned along the pass. The horse was found shaking and foaming at the mouth. The driver, a young man from Castlebar, had vanished. His cart lay undamaged, his lantern still burning. It was later said his fiancé heard knocking at her window that night, 3 soft taps, even though she lived miles away. She never opened it. Since then, the Windy Gap has gained a dark reputation. Drivers have reported their radios going silent as they enter the pass, followed by a deep static that grows louder until they're through. Others say GPS directions reverse, sending them back and forth in a loop, the road never ending. But the most common tale is the figure on the road, always seen from a distance. A man in a dark coat, standing motionless on the yellow lines, sometimes waving, sometimes pointing, never speaking. Those who stop say the same thing. He vanishes the moment you open the door, but when you return to your car, the passenger seat is wet, and your mirrors have shifted, facing inward. In 1985, a woman claimed to have picked up a hitchhiker near the gap during a rainstorm. He didn't speak but pointed toward Castlebar. She dropped him off near a side road. When she looked in the rearview mirror, he was gone, but the seatbelt was still pulled tight. Local legend claims the gap is cursed ground, once used by druids to perform rituals under the solstice moon. Others believe it's a thin place, a crack between this world and the next, and once the sun sets, the veil stretches thin. In 2017, dashcam footage surfaced online. A man was driving through the gap when his car stalled. For 7 seconds, the camera recorded what looked like a pale face pressed against the window, just inches away. No one else was in the car. Locals will still drive the Windy Gap, but always with company and always before dark. It's understood now. Something watches that stretch of road. Something that mimics voices, shifts shadows and waits for anyone foolish enough to stop. There's no memorial at the gap, no signs, just a sharp bend, a steep climb, and the feeling that you're not quite alone. So if you ever find yourself on that road after dusk and you hear someone whisper from the back seat, don't look, because whatever's in the Windy Gap doesn't want to be seen, it wants to be remembered. Across Ireland there are places best left alone once the light disappears. Some are quiet, others call to you, but all of them share one thing: something waits there. These stories didn't begin with YouTube. They've lived in whispers, warnings and silence, passed down not just to frighten, but to protect. So if you ever find yourself alone on a country road, Near an old bridge, a quiet forest, or a still lake, ask yourself one question. Did someone warn you not to go? Because they had a reason. Thank you for watching 10 Irish places you should never visit after dark. Subscribe for more haunted legends from across Ireland.